Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I've been preparing this video for a while now, but I hit some hiccups. So I originally bought this URG-I from Double Eagle because I was basically going to use it as a base to build an Aero precision rifle. And I told you I'd got these receiver sets and I picked up a couple of rails. So I've got the rails here. Let me get them out for you. So I initially bought two rails. These were S&I tactical branded rails. These are purchased from high precision, high pressure airsoft, sorry. And I was initially wanting to use like this Atlas R1 style, which it was a little bit longer than what I wanted, but it was the only size that they had. At the same time, me purchasing that, I bought the other one, which is their other handguard. I can't quite remember the name for this one, which is a bit chunkier. And I decided that I wanted to go for this. Now, I've hit some problems because I tried to dry fit this rail ahead of like recording this video. And basically what happens is this barrel mount, you take off these 8 screws and then you've got the barrel nut which goes on. Basically what happened was, as the barrel nut goes on, the screw mounts, so the barrel nut's made like incorrectly, or it's not compatible with this type of receiver set, but the 2 screw threaded holes in the barrel nut were sat about here, so they were like this, and to get them to line up with the rail, I would have to back out that barrel nut about 60% of the way, which meant you're only using 40% of the threads to hold it onto the thing. I'd have to make a huge spacer, and I was like, well, that's not going to work. That's not ideal. This one is a pile of crap, basically. They weren't, horrendously expensive, but the craftsmanship on that is questionable, and I've tried it on a couple of things in the room, and it just won't fit anything. The barrel nuts aren't made correctly. So I was like, right, well, I'll use this one, and this did go on. It did work with, a lot more shims. It's just a bit shit. But, the actual place where it secures to the barrel nut isn't, what the genuine ones are like. So I was like, this isn't going to work. It would have technically worked better with this barrel length. I wouldn't really have had to machine down the barrel. It would have fit, but when I put it on there, it was dead wobbly, and I just know I'm not going to be happy with it. So I was like, right, back to the drawing board. I was looking at different rails, all kinds of different stuff. I was even thinking about leaving the URG-I rail on there, but I don't really want to. And if I don't fit an Aero precision rail, the whole build is kind of pointless. So I had to make a purchase. This is a genuine Aero Precision Atlas R1 rail. I managed to get it in a 10.3. It's anodized in black, and these are crazy, well, not crazy expensive, but this cost £220. Yes, outrageous for what we're building. It's almost cost as much as the rifle. But as I take this out here, this is the genuine article, and you can see this section's different. You can also see at the back, it has these flanged areas on the rail, which jut out onto the receiver, which stops it, rotating against itself. The QD points are true QD points, which I can demonstrate that to you now. Where on the other rails, they were like Chinese airsoft QD points, which don't want to fit anything. So now my QD points will fit into these sections. It's lovely and light, but it feels really high quality. So this is what I'm going to have to use. Yes, I didn't want to spend it, but I was perusing Land Warrior and they had one in stock, and I was like, oh, I don't really want to do it. I'm going to have to. So this will go on, of course, but we're going to have to change the barrel length. So the barrel's going to have to be cut down literally just before or just after the gas block. So if I move this out the way just temporarily, let's take off this rail. And we do that by loosening the torque screws. This is kind of like a URG-I-ish rail from Double Eagle. It's not insanely accurate, but it comes with a rifle, and it's nice and sturdy. So got the little thing that will drop off there. We pull these 2 screws out. We do have some grub screws here, which are a 2mm. So we're going to have to pull them out a fair ways to clear the barrel nut. And we've got 1 on each side. We basically use these to centre the rail and stop it. It's another point of where you're stopping the rail from rotating itself. So we can slide this URG-I rail off and set that to one side. Let's put these screws in so we don't lose them. In fact, I'm going to have to put the barrel nut in there actually, so we'll just set that over here for now. We can take this magazine out. Now, one thing I will say is, which is quite interesting and surprising to see from Double Eagle, they're actually using barrel shims, or like clocking shims. Now, we've been selling these on the website for a long time now, and maybe they watch what I'm up to, I'm not too sure, but they perfectly clock the flash hiders to the barrels using these clocking shims, so I was just quite surprised at that. No grub screw on the flash hider. We do have a couple of grub screws on here, which are completely rounded from factory. So we actually have to use a T9, and we can kind of force that in to get these out. I will replace these grub screws at some point, but these were basically rounded off from factory. Quite heavily so as well. They're almost pretty much round, but once they're loosened I can get the 2mm to fit, but not very good. We can slide this off here. The barrel nut shouldn't be tight because I've been playing around with it. So we can extract this off here. This real rail might not even fit. If it doesn't, it's going on MTW. There's the barrel nut. We can set this off to one side with the rail. Put it in the... why does that not want to go in? Put it in the parts bin. Very strange. Why do you not want to go in? Oh, I'll worry about that later. In the interest of time, we'll pass it on to another day. Right, so in the box with the real rail, we obviously get the rail itself. We get a sticker. What sticker is this? Aero Precision. We might save that because the bench is going to be replaced soon. In this little package here, what do we get? We get barrel nut. We actually get a tool, a specific tool for the Atlas barrel nuts. We actually do get what looks like some shims here. So yeah, shim pack. They're very thin, extremely thin. Right, let's get this open. The barrel nut is actually different to the clone one as well, so we can actually use this once we're ready to get... We don't need massive amounts of torque on an airsoft rail, but we'll see if it threads on. And it indeed does. A lot of people say that these real rails won't thread on to MWS receivers, but I've actually found a few of them recently actually do. Sometimes they'll get a little bit tight like that, so what we'll do is we'll come in and we basically go back and forth just using the barrel nut. You can see there where it's catching, just to it's gone on most of the way, but we can just use that going backwards and forth to just shape the threads. I will pull the barrel section out for now, and while I do this, it's not very fantastical because I need to go get a wrench for it. I'll be back in just a moment. Right, that was a split second for you guys, but it was actually the next day for me. So I just sat working the threads on this thing last night, which got blisters all on my hands from doing it. But basically all I did was I took the barrel nut, I took all the skin off me and a thumb there as well, and I was just basically sat here just doing this, just working the threads. It took all the paint off the threads, and it's got me so far. So I think with the other double eagle that I fitted a real rail to, maybe just the thread was out of spec, but I think these are like a metric thread, where these are 1¼ by 18, so 1¼ inch threads by 18 threads per inch. So I can get it so far. There's a couple of things. So if I take the barrel, I took the shims off the barrel, and what that actually means now is if I thread this on to where I've got the barrel nut to, it will actually, if I tighten this down, it will actually hold the barrel in place. This is a little movement there. So eventually when I get this all the way down on the threads, what I'm going to have to do, if I take this off again, is I'm just going to have to reduce this collar on the lathe, which isn't a big deal at all. So I could show you how this rail goes on. So with these barrel nuts, obviously this isn't going to be tight. We do have the tool, which we basically line these lines up with where the gas port would go. So I can line it up there, so it's pretty much where it needs to be. We can shove the fake gas block on there. I am still having to use a T9 because these grub screws are going to need replacing because they're very much rounded. But yeah, all I did is I just literally stood at the bench for an hour just moving that barrel nut backwards and forwards, and it got me most of the way. So what I'm going to do is, you can buy threading tools, so we can get this thread right, but you have to order, or you have to have specific threading tools, which getting them in the UK, because it's an imperial thread, isn't the easiest. So I can show you how this rail goes together for now. We can get an idea of where we need to, because we're going to have to cut this barrel down, but we can slide this rail over now. There is a gap, so it doesn't perfectly sit into the receiver. And then what we actually have to do is, the way that the barrel nut works is we have these fitments here. So what we do, these are like reverse threads on either side of this screw, like that. So it'll only go in one way. So what we do is we line up these in the correct path that they need to go, but we can loosen them off. And then what we do is we grab a T15, we slide it through one of the nuts, we put it onto the tool there, and we're going to push both of these in from either side, line up. There's a little stopper in the middle which we just have to get this lined up with, because we basically want it to pull both of these nuts in at exactly the same time. So I can get it locked in there, and then as I'll put these in the wrong way, let's do it the other way. So we'll go that way, because the stopper on the rail here, this little spring-loaded pin, likes to turn one way more than the other. So we'll flip these round here. At least I think this is the right way. And we just want to get that lined up on the stopper, because we want to turn these in at the same time, like so. Sorry if I'm covering this up, it's just and when you do this, so you'll see those nuts there, I'm not going to go super tight with them just yet. See, it turns better one way on that spring-loaded pin than the other. It's very important that you have that line, in line with the gas port, because if you don't, these nuts, sit slightly differently on the barrel nut, and they don't want to pull into each other, they actually catch. So you would line this up where you need to on the rail. Obviously we've got some machining to do, so don't worry about the placement just yet. And then you basically turn that, which tightens it up, and that's on. So we need to come back a little bit on the rail. So what I'm going to do is obviously the barrel's a little bit loose. We don't need to worry about that too much because we'll space that out properly as well. We need to put a small scratch on the barrel. You could do this with a pen if you wanted to. And we're just going to situate the barrel where it needs to go and where I want the threads to start. So I would always leave like a 1 or 2 gap. So the threads, I think I'd be comfortable having the barrel in there just so it doesn't interfere with the rail. And then we've got our little mark, and then we basically measure this. So I will take the barrel down to obviously that mark plus the difference here, because the rail is going to be moved. Is going to be moved back, and eventually when we get this all fitting correctly, this will, you know, seat correctly up against the receiver. So I'll take a measurement of that. The rail is on. I have had it on where the barrel is tight, but obviously I need to get it back off anyway. So barrel cut to there. We need to do an inner barrel for it as well, because the inner barrel is only about this long. And then we need to swap the receiver over. The only reason I haven't swapped the receiver over just yet is because this is going to take the importance. So the downside or the delay that this build is going to have is that barrel nut tool is going to take 2 to 3 weeks. The barrel threading tool or the receiver threading tool is going to take 2 to 3 weeks to get here. Now I could keep going with that and try and work it in, but my hands are very sore from doing that. So this project is going to have to be parked just because I want to do it properly. So once the barrel nut tool comes in, I'll turn that barrel, the receiver threading tool comes in, I'll turn the receiver thread, make sure that's perfect. Once that's perfect, we can clock all this up and get it where it needs to be, measure the collar on the barrel, see how much we need to take off of that, measure the thread for the end because we're going to turn the barrel down to a 10-3. And then we're going to be cooking. We can get the receiver on, we can get our bits in. So we're going to go flamingo rubber, we're going to put a stainless barrel on it. Where's that come from actually? I've got more flamingo rubbers here than I need. We're going to put an end pass in, we're going to put a bolt stop end. We've got Z plates. Now, you won't have seen these Z plates already, but the Z plates I can now do in different colours. Just it's got a bit of oil on it there, don't worry about that. So we'll be doing these in different colours. We're using an anodizing technique on this rather than heating them up with a blowtorch, which is how, you know, others usually colour titanium. So we're doing it properly. And that way we can get a very accurate colour. But I'm going off on a tangent there. So the Aero Precision build is moving forward. We've had to buy an expensive rail, but we know that this part's going to be fantastic once it's on there. Receiver needs to go on, bits need to go inside. I do want to change the charging handle because this like Geysy one, it's not the prettiest charging handle. It doesn't have all the markings on, and they're cast, they're quite heavy, so I might swap that up for like a Radian one or something like that. We're going to put a Magpul stock onto the back here. I do have one, here it is. So we're going to go a CTR on the back. I'm also going to fit some die-free co-parts, so Kung Fu grip, plug, tiger claw, and just have it as a lighter build. So apologies we can't get this further in this video. I'm literally just stuck now for this tool to come in because I want to do it properly, which I think you guys will agree with. So interesting. The only reason I've spent the money to order this tool, because it's not cheap, is because, you know, further down the line, if I need to do another one, I've got the tools there and I can do it. So this, the click on this isn't as nice when you take it off compared to when you put it on. It's a very weird barrel fitment. It's definitely unique. And then we have to tap the nut out from this side. There we go. Because it does get a little bit stuck. Slide that off there. So yeah, that's where we are with it. I'm as disappointed as you guys, but I think with the other double eagle that I had, I put a real rail on it and it just went straight on. So I'm not sure if that receiver was out of spec or the other real rail was a little bit more forgiving in its tolerances. But yeah, there's a few times I've tried to get this video recorded and something's got in the way. So like I say, we'll turn this down so it's a nice 10.3. I was tempted to go, you know, even smaller with the barrel and have it, you know, have the suppressor sort of inside, or like a tracer. There's so many things we could do to make it look funky, but I thought, you know what, we'll just terminate the barrel at the end there, and then we can put whatever we want on the front. So thank you for sticking through this video, as painful as it may have been. You know, as with anything real steel spec, rails and such like this, it is a very pricey endeavour. I don't recommend it at all, but you do get some nice quality gear, and sometimes, to be honest with you, it can tarnish. Like now, when you start using real parts, it really affects you in the way that you look at like cheaper stuff. So I don't normally buy cheap rails like that. They are very cheap Chinese rails. There are airsoft companies out there that produce nice rails. You know, some of the nicest ones I've seen are from like HAO and stuff like that. So, but if you can't, with this specific build, we just can't get that. No airsoft, like high-end airsoft company has come out with a rail like this. I think there's a gap in the market there for someone. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Unfortunate of how it's gone, but there's some interesting stuff moving in the background. My new office/showroom is going to be moving forward this coming week, so that'll be interesting. I'll sure to get some video to show you guys what's going on. And as always, you can join the link in the description for the Discord, get involved with the Aero community. But for now, from me and Bench, we'll see you in the next one.